The assassination that ignited World War I. World War I, often called the Great War, was one of the most devastating conflicts in human history. Lasting from 1914 to 1918, it involved most of the world's major powers and reshaped global politics, societies, and economies. While there were many underlying causes, nationalism, militarism, imperial rivalries, and complex alliances, the immediate trigger was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne. This single event acted as the spark that ignited a long, smoldering powder keg, plunging Europe into a catastrophic war. Background: Europe before the war. In the early 20th century, Europe was a continent of tension and instability. The major powers, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Russia, Britain, and France, were locked in rivalries over territory, resources, and influence. Empires like Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire controlled diverse populations, leading to ethnic unrest and nationalist movements. The Balkan region, in particular, was a hotspot of political instability. Slavic groups, especially Serbs, resented Austro-Hungarian control and dreamed of independence or unification with Serbia. At the same time, European nations were building massive armies and navies, adopting militaristic policies, and forming defensive alliances. Germany and Austria-Hungary formed the Triple Alliance, while France, Russia, and Britain eventually became the Triple Entente. This complex network of treaties meant that any conflict between two nations could quickly draw in others, creating a chain reaction of war. The continent was, in essence, a ticking time bomb waiting for a trigger. The assassination in Sarajevo. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand visited Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia-Herzegovina, which had been annexed by Austria-Hungary in 1908. The visit was symbolic, meant to demonstrate imperial authority over the region, but it also angered nationalist groups who wanted freedom from foreign rule. A group of young Bosnian Serb nationalists, associated with a secret organization called the Black Hand, plotted to kill the Archduke. Among them was Gavrilo Princip, a 19-year-old revolutionary who believed that murdering the heir would advance the cause of Slavic independence. The assassination attempt that day was dramatic. Initially, one conspirator threw a bomb at the Archduke's car, but it failed to hit him. Later, due to a wrong turn in the motorcade, Franz Ferdinand and Sophie passed near Princip, who seized the opportunity and fired two fatal shots. Both the Archduke and his wife died instantly. The assassination stunned the world and immediately set in motion a series of events that would lead to global war. The diplomatic crisis. Following the assassination, Austria-Hungary faced a choice: respond weakly and appear vulnerable, or take decisive action against Serbia, whom it blamed for harboring the conspirators. With support from Germany, Austria-Hungary issued a harsh ultimatum to Serbia, demanding compliance with several conditions, including allowing Austrian officials to participate in investigations on Serbian soil. Serbia's response was cautious. It accepted most of the demands but refused some points, arguing that full compliance would violate its sovereignty. Austria-Hungary was not satisfied and, on July 28, 1914, declared war on Serbia. This act transformed a regional conflict in the Balkans into a European crisis. The domino effect. Alliances drag Europe into war. Because of Europe's interlocking alliances, the war quickly expanded. Russia, bound by ethnic and political ties to Serbia, began mobilizing its army. Germany, allied with Austria-Hungary, declared war on Russia on August 1, 1914, and 2 days later on France. Germany's invasion of neutral Belgium prompted Britain to declare war on Germany on August 4, 1914. Within days, a regional conflict had escalated into a continental and soon global war. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand had acted as the immediate trigger, but it was Europe's political and military environment, its nationalism, militarism, imperial ambitions, and alliances, that allowed such a localized event to escalate uncontrollably. Consequences of the assassination and the war. The assassination and the war that followed had profound consequences, both immediate and long-term. Human and social impact. World War I caused unprecedented loss of life. An estimated 16 million people died, including soldiers and civilians, with millions more injured. Entire generations were traumatized. The war also caused massive displacement, as families fled combat zones or were forced to move due to occupation and destruction. The social fabric of Europe was altered. Women entered the workforce in large numbers as men went to fight, leading to shifts in gender roles. The psychological impact of trench warfare, chemical weapons, and mass casualties left deep scars on societies, influencing literature, art, and culture for decades. Political and geographical consequences. The war brought the collapse of several empires. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the German Empire, and the Russian Empire all fell. New nations were created, including Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, and Poland, while colonial territories in Africa and the Middle East were divided among the victorious powers. The assassination also highlighted the dangers of nationalism and extremist politics. The actions of a few individuals, amplified by nationalist sentiment, could have worldwide consequences, a lesson that history would repeat during World War II. Economic impact. The war devastated economies across Europe. Infrastructure was destroyed, agricultural production fell, and governments faced massive debts. Hyperinflation hit some countries, unemployment rose, and poverty became widespread. The assassination, in this sense, indirectly contributed to one of the worst economic crises Europe had ever seen. Long-term global effects. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand not only led to World War I, but also shaped the 20th century in other ways. The Treaty of Versailles, which ended the war, imposed harsh penalties on Germany. These conditions created resentment that fueled the rise of Nazism and ultimately led to World War II. The geopolitical map of Europe was permanently altered, and the lessons of unchecked nationalism, militarism, and rigid alliances became central to 20th century diplomacy. Lessons from history. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand shows how a single violent act can trigger massive consequences when political and social conditions are unstable. It demonstrates the interconnectedness of nations, the dangers of extreme nationalism, and the importance of diplomacy. While the war itself had deep-rooted causes, the assassination was the spark that ignited the conflict, a stark reminder of how fragile peace can be. Conclusion. The murder of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo on June 28, 1914, was more than a tragic event. It was a turning point in world history. Though the war had many underlying causes, the assassination acted as the immediate catalyst for a global catastrophe. Europe's alliances, militarization, and nationalist tensions created a scenario where one act of violence could escalate into a 4-year-long war that killed millions and reshaped nations. Understanding this event is crucial because it teaches how political instability, extreme ideology, and rigid alliances can transform a single moment into a global crisis. The assassination in Sarajevo was small in scale, but its impact was immense, changing the course of history forever, the spread of the war. Because of Europe's alliances, the conflict quickly escalated. Russia supported Serbia and began mobilizing its army. Germany, allied with Austria-Hungary, declared war on Russia and France. Britain declared war on Germany after German troops invaded Belgium. In just a few weeks, a local event in the Balkans had become a full-scale war across Europe. Consequences of the assassination. Human impact. World War I caused millions of deaths and injuries. Soldiers faced brutal trench warfare, and civilians were affected by bombings and occupations. Entire generations were traumatized by the horrors of the war. Political changes. The war led to the collapse of several empires, including Austria, Hungary, Germany, Russia, and the Ottoman Empire. New countries such as Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, and Poland were created. The assassination showed how extreme nationalism and political violence could affect the world. Economic effects. The war devastated Europe's economy. Cities and industries were destroyed. Farms failed, and governments went into huge debt. Many countries faced poverty and unemployment after the war. Long-term consequences. The assassination and the resulting war also shaped future events. The Treaty of Versailles, which officially ended World War I, punished Germany harshly. These conditions contributed to political unrest and eventually World War II. The borders and governments created after the war also influenced international relations for decades. Importance of peace and global unity. Peace is essential for progress and survival. Peace allows education, science, and culture to grow. Cooperation between countries solves global problems. Mutual respect reduces hatred and conflict. Global unity is the strongest weapon against war. Final message to humanity. The world wars remind us that violence leads only to destruction. Power should never be valued more than human life. The responsibility to prevent World War III lies with every nation, leader, and citizen. History should guide us, not repeat itself. Complete ending statement. World War I and World War II were dark chapters in human history that changed the world forever. World War III, if it ever happens, would be a disaster beyond imagination. Therefore, learning from the past and working for peace is not just important, it is essential for the survival of humanity. Timeline of major World War events. World War I timeline. 1914. Assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. 1914 to 1916. Trench warfare spreads across Europe. 1917. United States enters the war. 1918. World War I ends. Germany surrenders, World War II. Timeline 1939. Germany invades Poland, 1941. Japan attacks Pearl Harbor, 1944. D-Day invasion in Normandy, 1945. Atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. 1945, World War II officially ends. These timelines show how quickly global conflicts can grow and change the world. Key leaders of the World Wars. World War I. Leaders Kaiser Wilhelm II, Germany. Woodrow Wilson, USA. King George V, Britain. World War II leaders Adolf Hitler, Germany. Winston Churchill, Britain. Franklin D. Roosevelt, USA. Joseph Stalin, USSR. Leadership decisions played a major role in the direction and outcome of the wars. Countries most affected by the World Wars, Germany, faced destruction and division. France and Britain suffered heavy losses. Japan experienced nuclear devastation. Russia lost millions of lives. Many Asian and African regions faced colonial exploitation. The wars reshaped borders and global power structures. Cold War, a result of World War II. After World War II, tension grew between the USA and the USSR. This period was called the Cold War. No direct fighting occurred, but fear of World War III increased. Nuclear weapons and military alliances expanded. Proxy wars happened in other countries. The Cold War showed how close the world came to a Third World War. World War III in modern discussions. World War III is often discussed in political debates, news media, movies and books, academic research. Many experts believe future wars may start digitally rather than physically, using cyber attacks and economic pressure instead of soldiers. Glossary, important terms. Alliance, agreement between countries for support propaganda. Information used to influence opinion genocide. Mass killing of a group of people. Nuclear weapon. Extremely powerful bomb diplomacy. Peaceful discussion between nations. Famous quotes about war and peace. War does not determine who is right, only who is left. Bertrand Russell. Peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding. Albert Einstein. Those who do not learn history are doomed to repeat it. George Santayana. These quotes remind us of the true cost of war. Extended final conclusion. The history of World War I and World War II shows that war brings destruction, suffering, and long-lasting pain. Although technology and power have increased, humanity must choose wisdom over violence. World War III must never happen. Peace, cooperation, and respect among nations are the only paths forward. World wars and human rights development. The destruction and suffering caused by the world wars forced the world to think seriously about human rights. After World War II, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948, was created. It aimed to protect basic freedoms such as life, equality, and freedom of speech. War crimes trials, such as the Nuremberg trials, punish those responsible for crimes against humanity. These steps helped establish international law and justice systems. The world learned that protecting human dignity is essential for peace. Refugees and migration. After the World Wars, millions of people were forced to leave their homes during and after the wars. Cities were destroyed, leaving people homeless. Borders changed, forcing families to move. Refugee camps were set up to provide shelter and food. Many countries faced long-term social and economic challenges. Modern refugee laws were created because of these experiences. Impact on developing countries. Although the main battles were fought in Europe and Asia, developing regions were also affected. Colonies provided soldiers and resources. Many countries demanded independence after the wars. New nations emerged in Asia and Africa. Global power shifted away from colonial empires. The world wars accelerated the end of colonialism, arms race, and global security. After World War II, countries focused heavily on military power. Nuclear weapons stockpiles increased. Fear of World War III shaped foreign policy. Military alliances like NATO and Warsaw Pact were formed. Peace depended on balance of power rather than trust. This period showed how fragile global peace can be. Education through museums and memorials. World War museums and memorials play an important role. They honor soldiers and civilians who lost their lives. They educate visitors about war history. They warn future generations about the cost of conflict. Remembering the past helps prevent future wars. Final reflection. The story of the World Wars is not just about battles and weapons. It is about human choices. When hatred and ambition replace understanding, war becomes inevitable. When cooperation and empathy lead decisions, peace becomes possible. World War III must remain a warning, not a reality. Ultimate conclusion. World War I and World War II reshaped the modern world through suffering and sacrifice. World War III would threaten human survival itself. Learning from history, strengthening global cooperation, and promoting peace are the greatest responsibilities of humanity today. Role of youth in preventing future world wars. The youth of today will be the leaders of tomorrow, so they play a very important role in preventing future wars. Young people can promote peace through education. Social media can be used to spread awareness, not hate. Youth movements can demand peaceful policies from governments. Learning history helps young generations avoid past mistakes. An educated and responsible youth is the strongest hope for a peaceful world. Diplomacy and peace talks in the modern world. Modern nations try to avoid war through diplomacy. Countries solve conflicts through meetings and negotiations. International summits help reduce tensions. Peace treaties aim to stop violence before it spreads. Organizations like the UN act as mediators. Diplomacy is always better than destruction. Economic cooperation as a tool for peace. Economic cooperation helps reduce the chances of war. Trade builds mutual dependence between countries. Shared projects create trust. Economic stability reduces anger and extremism. Global organizations promote fair economic relations. Countries that work together economically are less likely to fight wars. Role of technology in promoting peace. Although technology can be dangerous, it can also support peace. Satellites help monitor ceasefires. Online communication improves understanding. Early warning systems prevent surprise attacks. Scientific cooperation builds global trust. Technology should be used to save lives, not destroy them. Moral responsibility of world leaders. World leaders carry great responsibility. Their decisions affect millions of lives. Power must be used wisely and ethically. Peace should be prioritized over personal ambition. History judges leaders by their actions. Good leadership can prevent even the biggest conflicts. Message for the future generation. Future generations must remember, war is never glorious. Peace requires effort and sacrifice. Humanity is one global family. Cooperation is stronger than conflict. Only through unity can the world survive and progress. Extended closing statement. The lessons of World War I and World War II are clear. War destroys everything in its path. World War III, if it ever occurs, could end human civilization. Therefore, learning from history, strengthening peace, and promoting global understanding is the duty of every human being. World wars and changes in global power. The World Wars completely changed the balance of power in the world. Before World War I, European empires dominated global politics. After World War II, many old empires weakened or collapsed. The United States and the Soviet Union emerged as superpowers. Power shifted from colonial control to ideological influence. These changes shaped modern international relations. Nationalism, a cause and a consequence. Nationalism played a strong role in both world wars. Extreme nationalism caused hatred between nations. It pushed countries to prove superiority through war. After the wars, nationalism also helped colonies gain independence. Balanced nationalism can unite people, but extreme nationalism leads to conflict. Understanding this balance is important for global peace.